Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 313 of the Board Game Barbecue podcast, brought to you by Advent Games and our Patreons. My name is Lauren. I'll be in the host chair tonight, and I'm joined by two exceptionally handsome hosts. We've got one in Melbourne, Dan. Dan, how are you?
I'm great, Lauren. How are you?
Yeah, good. I gotta hit you. I gotta hit us with these nice introductions. We gotta combat some of the sass.
No,
Dan,
that I get from the other hosts. I really appreciate it. You can come back anytime. You can host every week as long as I'm on.
And we're also joined by Adrian up in Brisbane. Adrian, how's it going, mate?
Good, very good. You had every opportunity to say episode 313 and give a shout out to Eminem and the rest of Detroit, but you missed it, but it's fine.
Oh, my rap credentials are not nearly anywhere close to yours.
Well, Dan's our rapper. Dan's our resident rapper. So
I missed it too.
We're going to talk about some games. But before we do that, a lot's been happening. I got married. It was very exciting.
Yay, woo-woo.
It was, I think it was really fun. It was really, really fun. I didn't eat, but I heard the food was lovely. I had two anecdotes that I wanted to share from it, though. One was to do with a bowl of pegs. Now, there was just a bowl of pegs at the cocktail hour. And Kenny, actually, in the Board Game Barbecue community, he told me after, he's like, I walked past it and I was like, I reckon that bowl of pegs is for something. But he didn't know what. And then all of a sudden, he just sees kids running up and just attaching pegs to the back of people. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's all it's for. That's it. And the whole cocktail hour was just this kind of this undercurrent mega game running of people just going and cinching pegs onto the back of people's clothing without them realizing. And then you kind of like go onto your back and like, what the heck's this? And notice a bunch of pegs. I got so badly done. The whole train, the back of my dress, there's a photo that I saw, and just the whole train is just littered with pegs all the way down the bottom.
You look like a stegosaurus.
I look like a stegosaurus. And at the end of the night, I unbustled my dress and there was a peg in the train still. Like, I just so good. So good. So
the peg off antics got hectic. It was very fun. I don't remember all of them, but I do remember falling asleep at the fire pit, and there's a photo of me also looking like a porcupine. And it's been littered in the pegs by all the kids and the adults, Harry and Kenny and MJ and everyone. So yeah, it was fun.
So was that, and then there was also, Adrian, it was your first ever wedding.
Yeah.
Not just your first ever Jewish wedding, because you experienced the horror as well. Adrian got to lift me up in a chair.
That was fun.
Which was just brilliant.
I just bustled my way through and was like, I want to do this too. I want to help. I want to hold the chair leg just for 5 seconds. Yeah, it was great. It was really fun. It was it was like, if I knew it was going to be like a mosh pit, I would have got way more involved, but I felt like I shouldn't. But it was really cool. It was really fun. It was lovely to see so many people dancing and having a great time. So
yeah, no, it was absolutely awesome, really good fun. So that's been a highlight. I did.
Before you move on, can I just say, on behalf of the team, the podcast team, and the wider community, congratulations to you and James. You looked absolutely stunning on the day. I've seen a bunch of photos already. Congratulations, and James scrubs up all right as well.
Yeah, he scrubs up all right.
And we are all absolutely wrapped for you both.
Oh, cheers. Thanks so much. Because he says now, I say, you're my favorite husband. He says, and you're my third favorite wife. But aside from that, what else has been happening? Adrian, you went and saw one of our favorite productions that we've spoken about on a Patreon pod.
I did. I saw it today, and it was really nice to take Finn. It's actually, I think, the third or the fourth musical I've taken Finn to see that's like a big one. We've seen 6, Hamilton, and now I can't remember what the other one was. It was a smaller one, James and Giant Peach or something like that. But now we took Finn to see Wicked. It was MJ's first time. It was a nightmare, if I'm going to be honest, at the start, because we couldn't find a car park. And then me and Finn had to jump out the car and just leave MJ. And then we both sat there in the chairs, and it was like 1 minute to 1, and it was starting. and she still wasn't there. And every time the door clicked, we'd turn around immediately, and it was getting like 3 or 4 minutes past 1 o'clock, and I was like, the doors are getting locked. We're just going to have to watch the first half by ourselves. And me and Finn was a bit upset about it. He was like, we shouldn't have left. We should have all not seen it. And I was like, I agree. We should have done that. I've already seen it, so I would have been happy to bail out. But just on the dot, MJ walked in and we all got to watch it. So we were like all cheering and doing high fives and putting our hands in and like, oh, 1, 2, 3, like, and busting our moves. Yeah, exactly. And it was great. Like, such a good production. It was really nice to have that here in Australia, and the people that are in that show are just phenomenal. I implore people to go out and see it. If you've never seen it, it's a great musical for families and adults, and it's just awesome. Like, the production, the singers in it are the best Glenda I've ever seen out of the few times I've seen it. Just, yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So,
and that's huge praise, because you've seen it in London as well, right? And that's normally some of the best cast in the world. Yeah,
twice in London, once in Norwich, and then once here. And yeah, it was just great. I mean, it was just her ability to turn the humor on and ad lib on the moment just felt so natural and good, and she was very good at it, playing with the audience and the crowd and stuff, and it was just brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
That's so awesome. I definitely want to go see it again. James hasn't seen it, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Wow.
Are your family big into musicals, Dan?
Yeah, Jen and I went and saw this a couple of years ago. Oh, maybe we may have even been dating at the time, so we're probably talking 9 or 10 years ago. But yep, saw when it was in Melbourne, and phenomenal. The whole town was painted green when Wicked came to Melbourne.
Yeah, nice.
It was
wow.
Wicked.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yep, I mean, any musical that's been out for 10 plus years, know it's good. Go see it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, shall we talk about some games though?
Yeah.
Dan, there's a game. There's a few games actually that you've listed that I'm really interested to hear about. What have you been playing?
Well, the first one I want to talk about is a small one of All Plays small box series, and you would think that you take a word game. I love word games. Mix it with a deduction style mechanic. I love my deduction games. And you're going to get a game that I'm going to absolutely love. We played Fiction during the week, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it, because this game, deduction-wise, was brutal.
Really?
I don't remember the last time I suffered this much analysis paralysis, this much AP, than when we started to play this. So the premise of Fiction is it's Wordle, but as opposed to you trying to work out what the 5 letters are in the word, the one player chooses the word, and then when the second player guesses their series of 5 letters, the player who's called the librarian tells them which letters are wrong, which letters are correct but in the wrong spot, and which letters are correct and in the right spot. Except you spell librarian L-I-E, because you actually lie in one of the clues that you give the other person, which is of no help whatsoever until about maybe 4 or 5 rounds, because you're only allowed to lie on one, but you also must lie on one of your clues. And then the other person, or the other team, if you like, you can play as a team, has the second guess, changing a few letters, mixing a few letters around, and then you give them their clues as to whether they hit, miss, or right in the wrong spot. And again, you place another lie. So if your lies are inconsistent, they could potentially work it out. So there was one instance where, well, I'll tell you the first game that we played, and the word was float, and you always have to give them one of the letters that is actually in there, but you don't tell them where it is. So they've got a starting point when they put their first word. And after round 2, Jen was already stumped. She was just staring at it going, I don't know what to do. You've given me 5 clues, but I don't know which one's right, which one's wrong. And then she starts trying to math it out going, well, if this one's right, this one's wrong, then this one are actually true. And that doesn't help me. Okay, so if this one is the lie, then that one are true. No, that doesn't help me either. And she literally just went, I don't know what to do. She gets a third one. Now you do have three lifelines, if you like, where you can choose a letter in your previous guess and the librarian has to tell you if that clue is fact or fiction. And so later in the game, that's really helpful because then you can almost reverse engineer some of the previous clues and go, okay, well, you're saying that E is actually a lie, but you gave me that E in clue 2 as well. So if that was the lie, then the other 4 clues must be true. So then you can start piecing things together. But early in the game, it's really, really difficult. Anyway, it turns out round 4, she pulled the actual word out of her backside and got it. Right when she was just about to flip the table, I could tell that she was not enjoying this. Then it was my turn. I got to round 8, and I just literally just went, the game is supposed to take 20 minutes. Rubbish. You're actually supposed to use a timer and do each round 2 minutes at a time, and then after 10 rounds, that's 20 minutes, game over. No, very, very quickly we realized that there's no way. The timer is just way too much pressure. So we weren't timing it. We were just taking our time with it. I got to the 8th round. I don't think I was any closer to guessing it. And I literally just went, I give up. Let's just tell me what the word is. Just put me out of my misery, because we'd just crossed the 1 hour mark for a game that's supposed to take 20 minutes. So
wow.
I'm not saying I hate this game. But I tell you what, for a game that is a word game with deduction, I'm like, this is going to be awesome. The box also says that it's 10 plus. No, I don't think, unless you really don't like your kids, I wouldn't suggest playing with them. This game was brutal, and I'm not selling it yet. I really want to revisit it. Maybe playing with a team, like a 1 versus 4. You get that groupthink mentality where everyone can weigh in and stuff like that. But very early on, unless you start using those fact fiction tokens as a lifeline, this game is incredibly hard.
Yeah, well.
So I've just looked. The guy who designed it, Peter Hayward, is the same guy who designed That Time You Killed Me and Things in Rings.
Okay.
Which are both games that have very kinds of different lateral styles of thinking. So it really feels like he's pushing the envelope with his games in terms of the kinds of problem solving in ways he's trying to get you to think out.
Yeah. I mean, things. I like That Time You Killed Me. I really enjoy that sort of spatial 3D element of a what is essentially almost like a chessy sort of game. But it's interesting, the concept, because they've taken like Wordle. It's funny how like Wordle's only been around for maybe 6-7 years, but Wordle is it's part of the zeitgeist now, like a Sudoku or a word search or a crossword. It's such a familiar thing. They don't even try and avoid it. They just say this is a Wordle inspired game. But then they throw this deception element in there, and it's just completely. It makes it so bloody difficult, more difficult than it really should be. So if you love Wordle, have a crack at this. But geez, it was brutal, absolutely brutal.
Wow. Well, I guess make of that what you will. Fiction.
Yeah. Fiction.
Adrian, you've been playing a few games. Hopefully, different experiences.
Did you enjoy your games?
Yeah, that's the bar we're setting.
Hey, yeah, I have. I've luckily we got sent a copy of Harmonies from VR, and I've been playing that. And Jules has already sizzled it on a previous episode, which I cannot remember the number off the top of my head, but it is really my favorite of all of those type of games. Like hands down, like your Cascadias, your Calicos, those kinds of games. Like this one for me is like the king. I really love it. It's a really interesting puzzle that makes you really crunch and grind and think, but really you're only taking one action compulsory and then 2 bonus actions that you can potentially do, which is take an animal card and place a cube onto your environment. And the crunch in this game is so high, but it's also just fun and interesting. Like I find Calico's crunch just so hard, so brain burny that I just get a bit frustrated at it. Whereas this, I get more enjoyment from it. And I think visually this looks great as well, because you have these different levels of mountains and trees and rivers that you're trying to make. And yeah, I just found it really interesting and I've really enjoyed it. And it's an absolute top tier game. Like probably one of the best games I've played this year for me, just because it's so simple. The premise is it's been done 1,000 times, right? We've seen things like Cascadia, we've seen things like Calico, we've talked about these games, but for me, this one, it doesn't just sit there at that level, it does take it up a notch for me, and it really, it's just, yeah, very, very well done.
It's kind of ineffable, right? It's this kind of iterated upon formula again and again, and then a game comes along and it's just ordinary magic. It just strikes gold for a reason. You're not really sure why, but it just lands, and Harmonies really landed. It's the number 4 abstract game now on Board Game Geek.
Is it really?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
However much weight you want to hold to the BGG ratings, is disputed, but an 8.1 is outrageously high.
Yeah, it's on BGA, so it's also super accessible for people to play on the move, which is a big tick for everyone,
Yeah, so that's where I've played it. I've played it on BGA, and it's interesting you say that it's your favorite. When Cascadia came out, I bounced off it a little bit. Like, I understood why people enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I didn't understand why people loved it. I kind of played it and just went, meh, it's okay. I played it a few times. I owned it. I ended up selling it. I've played it more since online, and it's a good little spatial puzzle with the different objectives that kind of pull you in different directions, and you can't get all the objectives. You've got to try and get as many as you can. I haven't played Calico. I've only played Harmonies on BGA, and I have the same feeling as Cascadia. It's like, it's good. I would like to play it in person just because of the more spatial, the tangible element of it, and the fact that you can put green ones on top of brown, so it's got that theme in terms of the trees go on the dirt and they go next to the water, etc., etc. You certainly don't get that that tactile element when you're playing it on BGA. So BGA is kind of just like a flat, abstract, different objectives, and which one do you go for? And then there's new objectives. Always like, well, now I can't go for that one because these compete against each other and they're pulling me in different directions. So I enjoy it. I played it several times in Harmonies. I'm not like, wow, this is the greatest abstract game ever, but I would like to get played on the table and see how it differs for me.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a great game, and it's definitely really, really popular. I own the physical version. I don't love the tactility of it. I find the pieces a bit kind of awkward to grab out of the bag and stuff, but the game is great. But Dan, you've been playing another fairly abstract game.
Well, yeah, that's funny actually. Yeah, nice little segue then.
Oh, jeez, thank you.
You're good at this,
Post
Lauren.
with the most. It's at least my second rodeo.
You're good at this, and this is actually courtesy of VR as well. And it's a reskinned, if you like, version of Quoridor. Quoridor is a great 2-player abstract game where you're trying to get to the other side, and you're able to build fences and block the other person. There's a whole bunch of them in the series. And one day, one of my goals is to get all of the big coffee table size ones of Quoridor, and there's one with the balls that you stack, which I've played at PAX a few times. Pylos. That's a really great one. They're like, there's the size of bocce balls. They're amazing, those big ones. Anyway, there is a Pac-Man version of Quoridor that's out at the moment, and so it looks like it's a lot of fun. The board is black. You can put these neon blue fences out. You've got the Pac-Man. You play just basic normal Quoridor with ghosts. One ghost on either side, and you're just trying to get to the other side. My boys love it, but we actually played the Pac-Man version of it the other day as well. The Pac-Man one plays a little bit differently. One person plays Pac-Man, and then another person plays the 4 ghosts. I don't normally go negative on this show. and this is a reason why I'm not sizzling either of these games. I don't really love this one. And funnily enough, I wasn't even the first person to mention it. My boys played. Jack was playing Pac-Man, Jack was playing Pac-Man, and Ollie was playing the ghosts, and Jack just wiped the floor with Ollie. He got the 4 power pellets before Ollie could actually use the ghosts and capture Pac-Man. And Jack did it so easy. He looked at me and said, "Dad, I don't think this game is balanced very good." And I'm just like, I think you're right, man, because, and it wasn't just an age thing. Jack's 9 and Ollie's 5. Like, it just seemed way too easy for Pac-Man. So then they swapped. And again, Pac-Man just seems so, because the ghost can only move 1 space at a time. Pac-Man can move 2 spaces at a time. Unless the ghosts have direct line of sight, then they get to move 2. But then if Pac-Man reaches one of the power pellets, which are essentially in the 4 corners of the board, then Pac-Man gets a boost of 3. And on that turn, he's actually allowed to eat one of the ghosts if he catches him. So they've tied it so closely to the actual arcade game, but I think they've stripped away some of the mechanics that make the game of Quoridor kind of work, because it just yeah. And having said that, then I jumped in and went, let me have a go, and I within the first game, I found out a way to actually completely destroy Pac-Man. So much that I still agree it's unbalanced, but now that you know how to play, it's completely unbalanced the other way, and there's no way that the ghost would really lose, because all you do is just you don't worry about chasing him into the first power pellet, but you block you block him in. So once he goes into that section, he can't really get out without going past one of the ghosts and getting captured. Because I think the theory behind it is you're supposed to sort of chase the ghost is supposed to chase Pac-Man. As soon as he gets a power pellet, the ghost go, oh, suddenly, Pac-Man's OP this next turn. He's going to eat us. Get the hell out of here, sort of thing. But when you know that, you just stay more than 3 spaces away from the first power pellet. So when he does get his little boost of 3 moves, you're still sort of outside of arm's reach of Pac-Man. Not that Pac-Man has arms to begin with, but you know what I'm saying. And then you just box him in, and so they can't get it. That's just with the base setup. There are you can actually create any maze you want, but you're only allowed to place 3 vertical fences and 3 horizontal fences. But it's such a lovely game. It's really well made. The components are lovely. It looks like the arcade game for all intents and purposes, but it's a bit rough around the edges. The Pac-Man version of Quoridor. I say if you like Quoridor, just get it and play regular Quoridor on it.
Yeah, Quoridor's great, but how brutal it is. If someone is better than you at Quoridor, you will get demolished.
Yeah.
Like demolished. I've been humbled on Board Game Arena. So I wonder if this kind of format then, where it is imbalanced, might help when there's that huge skill differential. But then again, it sounds like it's a bit on rails and could go either way. But it's a very interesting concept.
Oh yeah, it is, and good on having a crack. I've really enjoyed though watching my boys play Quoridor, because they can set it up themselves, they can play themselves, and the rules are really simple. But then watching them work out their own strategies, like even Ollie, he realizes that if he puts too many fences over the other side of the board, he's blocking Jack from getting an early start. But then by the time he gets over the other side of the board, he's going to have to contend with all those fences that he's laid out at the start of the game. So it's fun watching him sort of work out some strategies, and then it gets to a point where both players have exhausted their 10 fences, and then it's just a race to see who can get to the other end. And it's like those chess matches where you're trying to get your pawn to the other side before one other player gets the pawn to the other side and then turns it into a queen. It's just backwards and forwards. It's fun to watch. I really, really enjoyed having it.
So Quoridor is the endorsement. Quoridor Pac-Man, very interesting ideas, beautiful packaging, but maybe some wrinkles to iron out.
It's almost like don't mess with the classic. Quoridor is a great game on its own.
Absolutely. I might jump in next. I've got another, also kind of abstracted style game that I played recently from the Board Game Barbecue Library, which is Coffee Rush. It's a delightful package. It's got these tiny little plastic clear cups, and when you draft and get the ingredients, which are also realistic resources, you put them in your little cups to kind of create different styles of coffee, and it's literally just contract fulfillment. So you have a board in the center that you're moving around, and everywhere you move, you pick up that ingredient. But you just can't land where someone else is. There's like a little bit of blocking as well. And you grab those ingredients and you distribute them between your cups to fulfill contracts. Whenever I fulfill a contract, say I do 3 different coffee orders in my turn, now you both would have to put 3 new coffee orders in your top slot. And then on your turn, everything slides down. So it's like those, kitchen rush style games or video games where you're trying to fulfill orders quickly along a conveyor belt before they all kind of tip off the other side. And it was really, really pleasant. It was really delightful. Nice, interesting spatial puzzle. It doesn't have a solo mode, but I really feel like it could. So it's only 2 to 4, but there's potential in there for a lovely little solo spatial puzzle. I'm going to scour Board Game Geek to see if a fan has made one.
I had the opportunity to get a copy of this a little while ago, and the word rush put me off. Because it made me think of those games like Overcooked, where it's like panic, panic, panic. I envisaged like a sand timer in this game as well. There may or may not be one, I don't know. But that word rush makes me think I'm going to be frantic. I'm gonna have to be doing stuff almost real time. Even though I should have probably looked it up on BGG or whatever, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, nah, I'm just not for me.
No, total opposite. It gets your turn and you're sitting there going, shoot, how do I navigate this spatial puzzle so I can move in such a way that I get the ingredients I need, but also position myself on the board so that my next movement will be the ingredients I need after that. So lovely, lovely little spatial puzzle. Probably some random luck with, the copy orders you get out, but the art is gorgeous. The production is gorgeous. It is a tight 30 minutes, that game. Really, really enjoyed it. That's Coffee Rush from Korea Board Games.
Have you guys ever agreed to play games with people and then embarrassed yourself through the entirety of the game because you thought you knew how to play the game and then realized you have no idea what you're doing and you're like frantically reading rules to a game that you're already halfway through?
I had this with Mind Management. I love Mind Management. Like, love, love, love. It's in my top 50. And I was certain. I was like, I know this game. I know how to play Mind Management. Let's go. 2 brand new players to the game jumped in. And boy, did I bungle that teach. Because it's a bit of a kind of esoteric game. It has a few weird little rules that make it quite unique. And the rulebook also doesn't do you any favors because there's the standard and advanced version of the game, but they're kind of interwoven with one another in the same rulebook. So disaster to try read and quickly pick up. So that was, I'm pretty sure I totally invalidated that experience, but yes, I've absolutely had that experience.
I do it all the time on BGA when there's some of the guys in the community, including Jonathan and Chris, they'll keep an eye out for some of the new games on BGA that are in beta or alpha, and they'll hey, do you want to join? I go, yeah, no worries, I'll pick it up as I go along. And I get halfway through the game, it's like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am so far out of my depth here. I should not have even agreed to being part of this.
Yeah, well, a similar thing has happened to me. I've been very luckily been able to play some games with Carly from the Board Game Specialist podcast. And awesome. Carly sent me a list of games on BGA that she knew and was like, are any of these games interesting? Sort of thing. I was like, Clans of Caledonia, played it at least 10 times. Let's go. Darwin's Journey, played. Oh, man, I think me and MJ, when we first got that game, we probably played it 3 or 4 times in a day at one point. Like, because we were on holiday and we binged it. And I played that at least 10 times a year ago. Sweet. Perfect. Let's go. Get into the games and then look at the boards and go, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know any of this game. Oh no, what's going on? What does that do? And on the Darwin's Journey board, you can't read it. So I had to go and get my rule book and then like look at what that action actually even meant. The Clans of Caledonia one was even worse because my UI didn't work properly. So I had bread like over the other side of my phone, just in no man's land. And I'm like, why is that bread over there? Like, what's going on? And it took me a couple of days to fix it. But yeah, I've embarrassed myself a little bit with a fellow Canadian podcast because I was like, yeah, sure, I'm keen as. I know how to play some of these games. Let's go. And then gone, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know any of these games. Oh my God, my memory's so bad.
You know how we say that the more board games you play, the more you forget how complex some board games are and you kind of assume things are easier or more simple than they are. I think that when you're really entrenched in the hobby, this is the closest you come to re-experiencing that because you think, oh yeah, it's so simple, it's so obvious. And then you get hit with the rules and you go, oh wait, actually it was not. And I'm an idiot.
Yeah, 100%.
And Carla and Mel, they speak so highly of us as well, Adrian. You could have just completely undone everything they thought about. Like, who are these guys in Australia? They got no idea about playing board games. Sure, they even should be on a podcast.
Objective.
How the hell did they get to 300 episodes?
Yeah.
That's what he's been doing this whole time, just destroying the podcast from within, just really in the underbelly.
I'm the mole.
So. Oh my goodness gracious. But absolutely, I've had that experience. Yeah. I really want to just squeeze in one more game before we carry on because this is a game designed by our very own Dan Harris, sitting the man, the myth, the legend. I've alluded to this on a previous podcast, but Dan, you've been messing around in the tabletop RPG space. Do you want to
Yes.
give us a bit of the intro to Confronting the Darkness so I don't completely botch it? And then I'd love to tell you about my experience.
I'd love to hear about your experience. So yeah, this was we talked about this on a Patreon podcast. You and I sort of dove into the indie tabletop RPG sort of genre, and this came about because well, I've been playing around in that space, and I've played Thousand Year Old Vampire in the past and a couple other ones. And I just thought I wanted to have a crack at my own, and it was inspired by Thousand Year Old Vampire, and it was more around I wanted to do something smaller on a smaller scale, but I wanted to do something that had a physical impact on the game as well as not just as well as a mental. So it's a journaling game, and it's driven by prompts. But what my vision was when they have those serial killer police serial TV shows and they uncover the lair of the killer or whatever, and there's got these manifestos where they've got like notebooks just full of scribbling and scrawling, and there's stuff all over the walls and stuff. I wanted to have that kind of end product. I wanted to create a reason for journaling. So, Thousand Year Old Vampire, you're a vampire, and you go through all the different prompts, and you go through different eras of time, and you're creating your own story, and you're journaling. But I just couldn't help but think, okay, why is the vampire keeping a journal? So I wanted to create a reason for the journaling experience, if you like. And so, Confronting the Darkness is a Cthulhu-based story where you play a detective or someone that is investigating a Cthulhu mystery, and as the story unfolds, which is a story that you're creating just based on prompts, the way you react to what's happening is also physically represented in your notebook. So there are 2 meters. There's your paranoia meter, which makes you question things that you've maybe written a couple of prompts ago. You might start going back and underlining words or circling words. If your paranoia gets too high, you may actually start ripping parts of the pages out or completely scribbling things out. And then there's your sanity as well, because that ties into the Cthulhu theme, where the way you write, in one of the early prompts, you switch from pen to pencil. Towards the end, I won't give away too much, but it really affects the way you physically answer your prompts. So the end product, whether you finish the game or whether you get halfway through and go completely insane and can't conclude the story, it's a physical thing, as opposed to, okay, I had an experience, that was fun, I played a role. You've got this end product of a notebook that could be completely tattered and torn and scribbled, and it's a physical embodiment of you going completely insane. That was the theory behind it. And so I pretty much knocked out the skeleton of it over the course of a weekend. I really started thinking about it on a Friday night. I started making some notes, and I pretty much spent all day, Saturday, Sunday, putting this thing together in a Word document. And then over the course of another week or so, just starting adding some of the flavor text and adding a little bit of explanation, the start and the middle, the end, and all that kind of jazz. And then we talked about it on the show, and you volunteered to give it a run. Mark in the community, he volunteered to have a crack at it as well. He gave me some feedback, so I've made some tweaks based on that. But to be honest, I could not be happier in the way that it actually, how you have an idea for something and you go, look, I'll manifest it, I'll make it, and then put it out there and see what happens. And it works exactly how I envisioned it to work, if you like. And I haven't really talked about it on the show because I didn't want to. I wasn't going to sizzle my own game or anything. But I'm just really grateful to everyone who has play tested it for me, because it's been a really good experience.
I have to say, Dan, credit where credit is due. I have had so much fun with this game. And I've played a lot of solo tabletop RPG journaling games in particular, a few that come to mind. Obviously, Thousand Year Old Vampire is a very, very famous one. Alone Among the Stars is also very popular. Quill, Apothecaria or Apothecaria, depending on, your flavor. The Wretched and Colossal as well. So there's a bunch that I've messed around with. Maybe I'm biased because I love Cthulhu theme. People say that they get burnt out on it. I just can't get enough of it. I just find it funny and morbid, but like wonderfully interesting and dark, and it's so much opportunity to be creative. So it's a brilliant setting for a journaling RPG if you're familiar, or at least have some cursory familiarity with Cthulhu, because journaling RPGs can be hard. It's sometimes hard to come up with ideas when you're writing, and even things like Thousand Year Old Vampire, which I think are very evocative. Sometimes you sit there, and Dan, you could probably speak to this. It's you get a block, and you're like, I don't know what to write. I don't have any ideas. Nothing's coming. You have no one else to bounce off but yourself. So to have a setting that is so rich, of which there's so much out there for it, there's a lot, if you're familiar with that world, to draw on, that I never felt like I was out of ideas. And that's a great experience to have with journaling.
As someone who has never played a journaling game and have no intention to play one, other than Dan's, of course, that was one I would try because you did it, bro. But like, I have no knowledge of these kinds of games. So this is like my question. Lauren, you say that having advanced knowledge of the Cthulhu mythos gives you a kind of a leg up, right, into what you can write about, what you can include. Can you potentially include some kind of a cheat sheet with this game, right? With just like figurehead names. Like, let's just say 10 mobsters, 10 different bosses, 10 different animals, 10 different locations, just so that if someone's writing and they're like, Arkham, like that's Batman, I got no idea what I'm doing, I'll just put this. And do you know what I mean? Like for someone who has no idea about that stuff, they can go, okay, I'm going to go to the city. So what city am I going to go to? They can look at the cheat sheet and just tick off like, we're going to Arkham. And then they have something. You're probably going to say it's already in there, aren't you, Dan?
I'll let Lauren go first.
Dan and I actually spoke about this the other night. We were speaking about the ways, and just some of the playtesting I've been doing, the ways that you could help people generate ideas. And I think sometimes with, at least from my experience in solo tabletop journaling RPGs, it really comes from the character creation, and like some of the initial world building can really help springboard that. But I agree totally. I think things like that to help people get into it, it could make it a very welcoming even journaling game.
Yeah. So, and that's the feedback I got from Ray's as well, and that is now in the latest version, which is on itch.io. I'll put a link in there. It's free to download. I'm not asking for any money. Just but I put some tables at the back so that if a prompt says that you stumble upon an ancient artifact in a local shop, then you go, well, I don't bloody know. I've put a table of possible artifacts, and if there's 12, you can roll a d12 and just pick. You can pick one, or you can just see what the dice says, and then use that as additional information for your prompt, and go from there. There's also things like Cthulhu creatures, or there's other lists of based on the mythology. So if it asks you for something, because they are the prompts are quite vague, but I have structured the prompts in like a 5-chapter arc, if you like. So there's 10 prompts that kind of resemble chapter 1. There's 10 prompts that sort of will escalate the story, but without getting in the way of each other. Chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 is kind of like the big climax of the story, and then chapter 5 is like a conclusion, or maybe depending on what the prompts are, it might lead into another direction, or a what if, or things might circle back from earlier chapters. So I've tried to create the framework of a narrative that goes for, but if you go completely insane during the story based on some dice rolls and other things, you may not even get to the end. But you're right. I wanted to lower the barrier of entry so that if you have no experience with Cthulhu, there's some tables and things in the back that you can actually rely on to help get you through some of the prompts if you're unfamiliar with some of the tropes.
Talking of kind of tropes, right? Everybody loves a gimmick, right? That's what draws people in. Would you ever consider doing some kind of scratch and sniff where you get to scratch the page and then sniff it, and it's like the cigar smoke fills the air, then you scratch it, then you sniff it on the Kickstarter campaign?
Maybe, but this one might be going to Kickstarter, but this is really just something I had in my head. It's like, you know what? If I don't do this, I've got no one to blame but myself. So let's just get it out, get it out of my head. I've already got ideas for the next one. I've actually got a couple of different things percolating. So this was just let's suck it and see what happens kind of thing. So yeah,
bro, Simon Squibb would be proud, bro, and so would Gary V. Like,
getting out there, doing it.
100%. That's the way to do it. Do it.
I want to quickly talk about a few things that I really liked in Confronting the Darkness. Although I will say, Adrian, there is a solo RPG, tabletop RPG called The Sticker Game, and I've wanted to play that with scratch and sniffs because I think that would be hilarious. So it's on. I got it from Solo, but not alone. But anyway, Confronting the Darkness. I am gonna include some mild spoilers, so if you're perturbed, jump to the sizzles because we'll head there next. But I was playing with Wendy, who is one of the characters from the Arkham Horror LCG. I just think in dark settings, having a child or someone who shouldn't be there just is really funny. And so, oh man, did Wendy have some experiences? So Wendy stumbles upon a library with like endless. You can't see the end of it, and when you get to the end, you think that you're at the beginning, like this kind of tormented, mad library that is never ending. So this was kind of the setting that was building from some of the prompts that Dan gave. I won't, go into what they all are, but this mechanism of rolling dice, and if you roll doubles, then your the intensity of the scenarios is going to ramp up, your insanity is going to ramp up, and with that comes additional prompts. Those prompts are in the form, as Dan said, kind of how your character's psyche evolves, and then also that translating, I think, very cleverly to how you physically write. So one of the things that happened for me is, as Wendy was having these crazy hallucinations, so she's kind of picking these books up off this endless library when she's searching for this tome, and they're kind of transporting her into these different worlds. And as that's happening, she's descending into madness, and it ramped up really quickly. So this was because I kept rolling doubles down. I rolled 4 in a row. So things just went from 0 to 100. So she's having this hallucination, and all of a sudden, the way that I'm writing, the words start melting off the page. So it's kind of artistic experience as well, that I got to kind of draw and doodle. Not just that I was journaling, but that I was tearing the page and intentionally blotting ink, because the words were kind of melting and seeping off the page. And I wish it wasn't in my car so I could show you, but I really liked the visceral aspect to, you were kind of dictating not just how my ideas should be construed, but how the physical process of writing in the page should go. Even something as simple as shifting the utensil you're writing with, or shifting which hand you write with, and all those things really do evoke this kind of descent into madness. And when I shift to write with my left hand, you know that scene from The Simpsons where Homer writes that love letter to Marge and he's drunk? It's like, hey, dear Marge, you've got a butt that won't quit. It's just like this scribbled, that is what my left hand looks like apparently, and I can't write with it. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've played it 8.5 times now.
That's amazing.
And it's just really cool. I mean, a few of those games ended very swiftly because of the rolls, but that's okay, right? And some were much longer, and it was very dynamic. There's lots of very cool ideas of things that I hadn't seen done elsewhere. So I highly recommend, if you do like solo journaling RPGs, for sure check out Confronting the Darkness. And even if you want to dip your toe in, I think there's a lot to enjoy as a first timer. So yeah.
Thank you so much. That's a glowing recommendation.
Yeah, well done, Dan. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can't stop smiling. It just seems, it's so lovely to hear that. Yeah, something that I just had in my head one weekend. Thought, you know what, bugger it. I'm gonna try and build this, and then just put it out there and have a few people have played it, and just to hear that it's something that had in my head actually works the way better than I even imagined. It's just great. Mark sent me a couple of photos, and he was writing, and some of the things that are in there are just purely a prompt, and then it's the player actually takes it and does something with it. He was writing one page, he wrote the whole thing in a spiral. Another one, there was teeth marks in the page. Like, the prompt isn't take a bite out of the page, but that was just where the prompts led him in his story. And so, yeah, he literally took a bite out of the page. It's just a trip, absolute trip.
Dan, you didn't try and build something. You did build something. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference, And yeah, massive props to you for sure. And anyone else out there, right, that's sitting on the fence about doing something, just be a doer. Don't be a don'ter. Just get up and go for it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And with that outstanding high note, we're going to move on to our sizzles.
If you're looking for a new board game, you need to check out adventgames.com.au. They have a great range of games, including pre-orders and hot new games. Anything you could be looking for will be there at Advent. Dean provides excellent customer service that is second to none, and he's always keen to support the Australian board game community through events, game days, and even through sponsoring a podcast. So head over to adventgames.com.au today. That's adventgames.com.au.
All right, Adrian. This is something that's been brewing for a little while.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Me first. I feel pressured.
Grab the popcorn. I'm ready to hear about this game.
So we were massively lucky enough to be sent a copy of the Elder Scrolls from Chip Theory Games, and huge respect and love for them for sending us out a copy early. It's a game that I have backed myself, and I was really interested in playing it. I was very excited. I knew I had the group to play it as well. So yeah, we got stuck into it. So what can I say about it? Like, it's definitely built on the bones of the Too Many Bones franchise. Like, if you like Too Many Bones, you're going to like this, right? 100%. However, I didn't like Too Many Bones. I thought it was fine. I was never excited or ecstatic about it, apart from when I played Polaris, which I did really enjoy that character. So for me, it was the IP that dragged me into this game. So as a backer, when I knew this was going to be built on the bones of Too Many Bones, right? I was not concerned, because I know that Chip Theory always makes a quality product, right? Whatever they make is always very high quality, and they do a very good job at doing it. So Burn Cycle is a Metal Gear Solid, like, stealth espionage, doing the robot thing. Then you've got the MOBA game of Cloud Spy. Then you got Hoplomachus, which is this crazy, amazing solo game. And then you have obviously Too Many Bones, which is this battle arena game, story driven by cards and upgrading characters and a sort of quasi RPG kind of a thing. But them taking the Elder Scrolls and making a campaign game, having the fact that they've got the rights from Bethesda to do it, which is like was it like $74 billion company or something ridiculous like that? It's, it's a big get. And all I can say is I've been very impressed with the gameplay so far. A couple of small notes before I go into that gameplay. There is a massive learning curve for this game, like any campaign game, right? Any campaign game that you sit down and pick up, there's a big learn curve to from zero knowledge to I understand all the rules and we're going to play the game. Okay. If you have prior Too Many Bones knowledge, that does help you. Okay. As we found with Matt Woods, who was one of the players in our campaign, every time we would say, oh, just like in Too Many Bones, he couldn't reference that. He couldn't use that as a reference point because he'd never played Too Many Bones. So we could never, refer back to something. But people who have played Too Many Bones, you will have a vast knowledge and base level understanding of some of the mechanisms in this game. So we'll give you a bit of a leg up on the knowledge front. So, Elder Scrolls. We are a band of misfits, grouped together to do a quest, right? Kind of like D&D, you start in like a town or a tavern or a different location. There's 6 locations that we could start with, and we chose the Black Marsh as our starting location. We won't go into too many major spoilers. There'll be a few minor spoilers ahead. And essentially, you have a day timer, of which the quests in the book kind of tell you what day you need to get to certain locations on the world map. Okay. And you're able to move freely around the map to different locations and do different actions depending on where you finish, whether it's a delve or an encounter or just a town phase or a peaceful kind of environment sort of scenario. That depends on where you finish on the map. And each map has a different mechanism. So the Black Marsh can be flooded, it can be rainy, it can be different things, and that actually slows you down in the game. So moving space to space on the world map can be hindered if it's flooded, and you need to spend extra exhausted points to be able to move more. The character creation, let's just start with that. So world map is moving around a map, doing different things, following a quest log, completing quests, kind of like most quest-based campaign games, right? The quests are interesting and they do change, and there is a sort of each world map has its own book, and depending on which guild you're affiliated with is which quest line you will do.
And do you have free reign to do the quests as you in any order or as you see fit?
No. So essentially what will happen is we draft 3 guild types. We choose one and we follow that one's quest line, right? That's the main quest. You can visit towns and do other things. There's also side quests that you can pick up as well to get bonus XP and other items.
Cool.
And you don't have to do those. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. As an example, the bard, to become a master bard rather than a novice bard, he starts with his own side quest called like bardism or something like that. And he's collecting points as he goes to build himself up to be able to flip his novice into master to become a master of bardism.
Cool.
So the character creation. Boy, oh boy, has this got character creation. It is, I think, a masterpiece in character creation for a board game standing point. Too Many Bones was great. You could choose dice, choose different things, but you were kind of on a linear tree, right? You couldn't just go, oh, well, you've got some patches dice, and I'm playing Gizmo, or I don't know all the bloody names. I'm sorry if there's no Gizmo, but I'm going to take, I want to learn those patches dice and I'm going to put them in my skill tree. It doesn't work like that. You only have that character's dice set. Whereas in this, you choose a race first, and then you choose a sort of skill set of being, like a sorcerer or a bard or whatever. And then you also mix that up with different stats. So you have health, stamina, and magicka, which imagine like 6 squares, right? And they're like rows in rows, okay? And you put your health stats and your different stats in those rows on the left and the right of those 6 squares. Now, if you want more health points, you can keep adding squares to that track and put your health all the way from one side to the other, okay? Or imagine if on the very right-hand side of that track you had heavy armor and you started building heavy armor dice and skills. They would then meet the health points at some point, be it at the middle or 1 to the left or 2 to the right. So you then have to make a decision of, do I want more health or do I want more heavy armor dice for my fighting abilities?
Yeah, cool.
So you need to sort out and choose where these attributes lie inside that grid pattern, because essentially the more stamina I have, the less bow skills I can have. As an example, for me, it's acrobatics. So I have stamina and acrobatics on the same skill line, but then on the line below that, I have the bow skill with my combat dice, because my combat dice, I'm never going to level that up. It can be 0 for all I care. I'm just going to keep leveling up those bow skill dice because that's the way I'm going to do the most amount of damage. But the acrobatics helps me move, dodge, do different abilities to help others be able to move and dodge and do different things. So, yeah, the way you build your characters in this, it almost has infinite combinations. You can be two-handed wielding crazy dude that's buff as dragon knights, as your skill set, and you're a human or an imperial race, and then you can add a bunch of other stats. So you're like, I'm just going to be full dual wield sword man with hardly any hit points, but I'm going to also get another stat in heavy armor, and then I'm going to switch between my stances, because you basically have these kind of different stances to use different dice at different times. And, I'm going to go in there, guns blazing with a big dual wielding axe, smash a bunch of people, and then I'm going to switch my stance to heavy defense, and then I'm going to roll those dice and defend myself to the hilt. And then when it comes back into the combat again, I'm going to switch back to two-handed axe and just go to town.
It sounds like it's getting closer than other games I've heard to simulating video game play in a board game. It sounds like it's really dynamic in that way. Is that that's the sense I'm getting. Would you say that that's kind of accurate, or it feels very...
Yeah, I think in the Elder Scrolls world, yes, because in those games, if you just start to sneak around in the game, you start to build up sneak stats, even if you're not a stealth type character. You innately, if you do the stuff, you get better at the stuff. So if you're using a two-handed weapon, you will automatically level that up, as opposed to, if I'd never used a bow, then I'll never get those stats, right? So it shares the Too Many Bones DNA and the fact that you roll the dice, you put them in a section of what they call a cooldown track. So doesn't really have a cooldown track in Too Many Bones. You just have bones. So if you roll bones, you put them in the bones track, and when you get too many, you get to do the thing. Whereas in this, you get these skill dice, and when you use them, some of them become activated. So if you have a sword and a shield, right? So if you're one-handed sword and shield, if you roll those dice for the one-handed sword and shield, just the base level dice that comes with that skill, you're able to activate those, and they become active. And when they become active, they end up acting as a defensive ability. So you actually basically put those shield dice in the top of your active pool, and they can defend you against heavy attacks. Or you can use them to hit people, because they're also like they're sword and shield. So you get to mix and match it and use them to, your heart's content. But as you switch between stances to use different things, you get these things called fatigue dice. Now, fatigue dice slow down your cooldown dice that sit once you've used them in the track from replenishing. So if you imagine, if I used a sword and a shield dice, and then I had to switch stance, I'd have to add a fatigue dice. And if I'm only clearing out 2 dice per round, in that round, I'm only going to get 1 sword and shield dice back, and that fatigue dice will then be gone and back to the supply. It just depends on what you're doing. Different abilities get you different fatigue dice. Fatigue dice suck. They're not fun. Heavy over fatigue is worse. It's a black dice that you can't get rid of. Yeah, that's that. Then we're only at the character creation. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's insane. Like, they have really thought about this, and that's what I really love. And I love the fact that you can mix and match. Like, I'm going to be a dark elf archer, because the dark elf comes with an innate ability called dynamic, and that dynamic ability lets me do this. And when I've got a bow, I can do that. But I'm also going to get acrobatics, which goes really well with the archer, because I can use my tenacity to do this other stuff. It really does have almost an infinite level of combinations of what you want to do. And that's what I've really enjoyed so far, is the fact that we are all playing very different characters very differently. And that's what Too Many Bones does. However, in Too Many Bones, you pick your character and that's you're set up. Whereas this, you keep that character and you're building that character round by round. And as you play the game, we've now completed the first part of the first campaign. We're in the second half, and we've kept all those abilities. We've kept all that stats. We've kept all that experience, and we feel more powerful. However, the enemies are getting infinitely harder to beat. But sorry, Lauren, after you.
No, I don't want to interrupt your point. I want to ask, so who is this game for then, right? Like, is it for the people? Because you got a steady game group. This is the same game group that's played, KDM.
Yeah.
A lot of them have played, say, Too Many Bones. Is it for the people that have played Kingdom Death Monster and Too Many Bones and enjoy campaign narrative play? Or is it for people who have played maybe more strategy focused games but haven't dipped their toe into narrative style games? Like, who is this pitch to?
Oh man, like, it's an interesting question, because I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for that, because I feel like this game, even though you're rolling dice, okay, you're not relying on a hit chance. You're not relying on getting an 8+. If I don't get an 8+, my head explodes and my character's dead, like in KDM or something like that. You roll the dice and you see what you've got, and then you have to math out and puzzle what you can be most efficient with. and where you're going to set these dice. So I find the strategic element in this game much higher than things like KDM, because KDM does have a lot of luck and luck mitigation. You're trying to constantly crit, or you're trying to constantly make sure you get that hit chance and buff that hit. Whereas in this, I feel like the spatial puzzle of the board and how efficient you need to be is a very interesting puzzle. Like, and it's sitting there and thinking about who's going, what's going to happen. And I know that you're relying on elements of luck because you're rolling dice, and that's part of it, but you still need to sort of mid-max your way through every turn. And it is not easy. Solo was insanely hard. I would never do that again personally. I was maybe the wrong character for the job, but I definitely prefer the two-handed solo where I can sort of bounce the characters off of each other. Whereas in the three-player game has been great. We even, I wouldn't say cheated, but we added a fourth player because you're able to essentially track your experience, because as you play the game, you get more and more experience, right? As you play, you get experience. And a friend of ours wanted to join for a session, and I wasn't going to reset it and start again. So I was like, well, we have 12 XP and we've got these items between us. You can spend 12 XP to build your character, and we'll share the items that we have in the item pool between us, and we'll play with 4. And maybe it slightly affected some of the game. I wouldn't be able to tell you the mathematics behind it, but we had fun, and it wasn't that hard to introduce another player in. And because essentially the way the games works is it's your XP times the player count is the enemy pool, which I think is the same as Too Many Bones from memory. It's something along those lines.
You're not asking the right audience.
It's okay. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, it's just very, once you start, it's like any of these kind of heavier games, once you start to move, it really just goes so smoothly. Like, it's super smooth to play. And I think that's kind of a fun element of it. And it's not super long. If I'm honest, like, I didn't know how long this campaign was going to be until I started playing with it. And I feel that, like, you could get it done in maybe 8 4-hour sessions, which for me, I don't think is that long, because I spent 2 years playing Kingdom Death Monster.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that's achievable. Yeah. And I feel that, like, if we look at the history of these campaign games and how many get started, then the fresh new thing comes along, and then this one gets neglected, and then it just sits there on the shelf and it goes on the sale pile. And I feel that, like, for me, I would rather play this through twice than play it halfway and not complete it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and next time I play it, I'm going to go, I'm making a completely different character. Like, I'm not even going to play nearly the same style of play I played before.
Yeah. And then depending on what guild you choose, does that change the quests?
Yep.
And so there's immense replayability for this thing.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, I think, the appeal to it. The appeal is you're not locked in for 12 months or Frosthaven or Gloomhaven levels. I think the appeal comes from the ability to play this thing, get it to the table, enjoy your plays, build your character up, get to the end, maybe fail, start again. It's not an issue, because you're not going to take 5, 6, 7 months to get back there again. And you'll gain knowledge. We've already gained a lot of knowledge on how this game works and what we can and can't do, and what abilities work best on particular types of enemies. And yeah, it is just brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I have it. It's here. I haven't cancelled mine. I'm keeping my one with the code. Like, I want it to be mine so I can play it with Finn, like when he gets older or whatever, or maybe even quite soon. Because it's like anything, Lauren, you spoke about it when we played Arkham Horror 3rd Edition. If you have a DM kind of character or player, you can get these games moving quite quickly, and it's not particularly hard to get a base level understanding of what's happening. So just like if someone knows how to play this game, you can really just get it moving very, very quickly. And like, I haven't even been through the items, haven't been through how you get treasures, haven't been through like the different advancements and the different things you can do with attributes and how you use tenacity. And yeah, I could speak about this game another 3 times in 20-minute segments. It would, yeah. Just to go through a few other small minor things, that are different adventures that you do. So you're not always playing like on Too Many Bones with the 4x4 grid or 5x5 grid. I can't remember for the life of me, but you really do feel like you're adventuring and doing stuff. There's ones which aren't an adventure. They're a large mat that you're playing on, which is a sort of strange shape. But the delves, where you're delving down, trying to find these crystals to get experience and get back out, they are so time sensitive. You have a timer to get this stuff done, and you really feel the pressure. And that's what I like about it. I like feeling that pressure and trying to problem solve my way out of this game. And I've really enjoyed that aspect of cooperatively. Man, it must be our group, because we're rubbish. We'll talk 20 minutes for a turn. No problem with that. And I'm happy with that. I don't see that an issue. Like, I'm not besmirching that. I'm not saying like, oh, it took us 20 minutes to take a turn. I was very happy discussing and debating it with my group to be like, what do we think the best thing is for us? And that's my group, and I love them for it. So yeah, phenomenal game. If you've backed it already, I couldn't see you being disappointed with the end product. The only thing that I would say is I would get the extra content, because why not? Like, I am. I'm not getting it, but I know that there's a little bit extra content in there, and I want that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, man. Elder Scrolls, amazing.
Look, I'm sure we'll hear about this game many more times, not just from you, Eddie, but also when other members of the pod are able to play it. I'm sure there's a few members that are really going to enjoy this one just by the sounds of it. So
yeah.
I definitely look forward to hearing more about it, because it sounds like there's just tons to explore. Dan. Equally as heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Equally as thematic.
This one is so heavy. I printed it at home myself. So we're going to bring it down a little bit. We're big fans of Scribbly Gum here in this house. My boys get it out all the time and play it. So backing Koala Rescue Club when it came out on Kickstarter from Joey Games was an absolute no-brainer for us. And we have had an absolute blast with this one. It is so, so good. So it's a joint production with Postmark Games, which is Matt Dunstan's team. But this is a Phil Walker Harding game. And you play Koala Rescuers, which the theme my boys love straight away. And it is it's a roll and write. All you need is a D6, and you just print it off yourself. And the game is split into these parks, which are just grids. And you roll the D6. You get there's 30 rounds, so there's just two rounds of 15 each, or 15 turns, and everyone uses the same dice. So a dice is rolled, and then depending what the number is, that dictates what polyomino shape you get to circle in your park. And you need to circle trees, and then you circle them again, and that represents placing koalas. You're homing koalas into your park. And if you complete a horizontal row or a vertical column, there's a bonus, and the bonus might be to circle another tree somewhere in your park. It might be to home another koala somewhere in your park. It might be that you get a volunteer to the team. You always start with one volunteer, but you might get a second volunteer. Volunteers allow you to mitigate the dice and just add +1 or -1 to the dice to change the shape that you're going to place, that you're going to circle in your park. And there's also a couple of hospitals which you need to circle. You need to cross out. I think to get 1 point on the hospital, you need to circle 2. To get the bigger one that's worth 3 points, there's 4 of those little red cross symbols. And there's also these bridges that will bridge across the river into another park. And so the core map you start with actually has 5 parks. You start with Park A, and you need to complete a specific line to to be awarded the bridge that will then cross into another park. So later in the game, you may have 3 or 4 different parks on the go, which is then great because depending on what the number is rolled, depends on what shape you get to put down, and then you can decide where it fits. But at the end of the first round, which is after 15 turns, you start to tally up how many parks you've completed every tree in, and then how many parks you've rehomed every koala, and then also how many hospitals you've established. And much like Scribbly Gum, whatever score you get will cascade into the next round. Although unlike Scribbly Gum, there's only 2 rounds in this game instead of 3. There's also some bonuses, like they're called merit badges. So the first person to actually get all of the trees in area A will get 3 points. Everyone else gets 2. There's another one, first person to get all 5 bridges gets 3 points. Everyone else gets 2. They're really, really simple, but there's enough there to, much like we were talking about before with Cascading, with Harmonies, there's little objectives that sort of push and pull you in different directions because you can't get them all. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to get every single objective. So when it comes time to filling in a polyomino shape, do you plant more trees to try and get every tree in your park? Do you go for koalas? Because once you've done trees and koala in a certain row, that gets you a bonus, which you can do it over here. And my boys had already got the concept of the bonuses. When you work down the column of meals in Scribbly Gum, and that gets you a free turn, or if you use the water drop, that gets you a free meal, whatever you want. You can use that for whatever you want. So the concept of sort of bonuses they already have an understanding of. This is the next level in terms of bonuses. You can really start to chain things together, particularly if you're waiting on one particular koala that will be covered by a row and a column. As soon as you get that last koala in, you're going to get 2 bonuses, whatever's at the top of that column, whatever's at the side of that row. And so that might give you the ability to put another koala somewhere else. That's just get you another combination. So one single move might get you 3, 4, 5 different chain combos. And the boys were loving that. They're like, oh, this gets me that. And even Ollie, who's 5, was picking it up really, really quickly. He was flying ahead. So the scores have been really close every time we played it. There's currently 2 maps available. The second map has different objectives. It actually has smaller parks, but more of them. So again, the dynamic shifts in terms of what you're trying to do and how you go about doing it. But I love the fact that it's just a single dice roll and everyone uses that dice. And you're only maybe 3 or 4 rounds in before everyone's map looks completely different, which is one of those things that I love about these sort of style games. It's an absolute winner in our house. Koala Rescue Club.
I love these style of games. And people are saying, there's too many. Some of these really light iterations, especially with lovely Australian themes.
Yeah.
We're seeing in a few of these. It's just delightful, right? Delightful.
So the artwork is really, really cute. Meredith Walker Harding's done the artwork. And yeah, just super, super cute. Really, really simple. Easy to understand iconography. Like I said, the kids picked it up really, really quickly. But it looks light. Even just the fact that it was a print and play, you print it off at home. I've laminated mine in matte so we can use pencil and then rub it out and reuse it. But it's deceptively crunchy. There's a lot of really good decisions in there, particularly when you start chaining combos together. This gets me that, this gets me that gets me the bridge. I can move across to here and put another tree there, and it's great.
Brilliant.
I think.
And how's that character creation in it?
The character creation. Yeah, it took us hours to do the character creation for this one, but I think Joey Games have knocked it out of the park again.
Unbelievable. Whole slew of games. We had a few abstract ones, Coffee Rush, Quoridor Pac-Man, Harmonies. We also spoke about Confronting the Darkness, outstanding solo tabletop RPG from our very own Dan Harris, and Koala Rescue Club and the Elder Scrolls. With all of that, let's move on to some announcements and some news. So the Sydney Game Day is coming up 2nd of November at Castle Hill RSL. So same venue as always, same lovely faces as always, but a fresh new library. Come along, tickets are selling fast. Definitely get amongst it. If you were in Sydney for PlayCon and you enjoyed it and you just want a bit more of that, that's a bit more chill and relaxed, then definitely grab your tickets for that because they're going quick. And just after that, we've got the Brisbane Game Day, 16th of November. 80, where are we having that?
My house. Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm there.
No, that will be at Royal on the Park Hotel in Brisbane City. My mum is devastated because she arrives 2 weeks after the game day and she really wanted to try and experience a game day. So she might try and change her flight to attend a game day. So,
well, I hope she's able to attend and get a game of TO in.
Yeah, she would love that.
And then the big one, already get it in your calendars. PlayCon 2025. It's going to be from the 11th to the 13th of July. We've spoken about it ad nauseum. It was incredible. It's only going to get better from its inaugural year. So make sure to save the date and join us for that because it's going to be incredible. And head along to eventbrite.com, search for the Board Game Barbecue to keep up with all of our events.
Transform your gaming experience with the Table Flippers. The Table Flippers specialise in handcrafted custom game tables that turn your living space into the ultimate gaming arena. Designed for style and functionality, their tables are guaranteed to elevate your game night. Visit thetableflippers.com.au to explore their stunning designs and to order your premium game table today.
Alrighty. Question of the pod. This one, near and dear to my heart. Favorite board game night snacks? All right, Dan, do you want to hit us with some of the popular snacks from our community?
Yeah, so Facebook, Carl Van Ostrom actually kicked off a bit of a discussion between him and Mitch. He just said spicy pickles. And Mitch's response was, huh? Spicy pickles? Where did you get these from? Tell me more about it. How were they pickled? What's the spice? And so Carl went into it in great detail on our Facebook page. So spicy pickles is a winner. Claire Smith said, if I'm being allergy inclusive for my allergen pals, Sour Patch Kids are usually a good choice. They're vegan, nut-free, and depending on the variety, gluten-free. So they're usually a safe bet for enjoyment. If I'm choosing chaos, though, I'll mix original M&Ms in a bowl with a bag of Skittles. That sounds like fun.
Oh my God. I've never done that. Lollies and
great.
chocolate. Well, nah. Can't mix that together. I'm scared.
I'm in.
Do you never do the thing at the cinema? You get a bag of M&Ms and you pour it into your popcorn?
That is acceptable.
Yeah.
That is Skittles and M&Ms. Do you do that, Lauren?
No, I don't because I'm not a savage, but
Yeah.
You animal.
I'm kidding.
I would.
I look.
But it just means you can't eat them by the fistful, that's all.
Why not?
Because then you're going to get an absolute mosh pit in your mouth. But
taste the rainbow, Dan. Yeah. Get it all in there.
There's been a few times, right, where I've been a bit gluttonous in my life, but it definitely happens at the game table when there's M&Ms, and I grab like a hand load and then pull my head back like a pterodactyl about to like eat a worm or something, and I sort of put them in, and then Finn will go, the claw in the background of me. So I like claw them into my mouth.
Oh no, I'll do that with M&M. But if there's Skittles in there as well, I'd want to be eating M&Ms, and so I'd only be taking one at a time. So at least that would last.
True, that is a good idea.
Anywho,
it's like a deterrent.
No. Claire, I'm here for it. I think it's a great idea. Mm-hmm. What else we got, Dan?
Guppy Jones said Maltesers and milk bottles. I can get on board with those as well. And they said chase down with beers. So there you go. Anna Sarah said last one I had dal curry naan bread and samosas. Delicious, but a nightmare. Would not recommend for game night.
Wow.
Love the hospitality though.
Absolutely.
Kwok Hon Pan said, "What do you mean? No food around my board games, or nor any greasy fingers." LOL. And Lauren said, "Oh, that was you. That's right." Said,
"Yeah, it's me.
Sweet and salty popcorn, Sour Patch Kids, and Maltesers." So
simple.
Sweet and salty popcorn can get on board. You talk about the movies. I used to eat the chocolate off the top of my choc top and then dip it in the popcorn. So you're eating popcorn directly off your choc top, but it's got like ice cream flavor as well as the salty movie popcorn. The best.
I want to derail this conversation just for a second.
Oh, I'm going to derail it straight after you, so go for it.
So at my wedding, and I swear to God, this last time I'm going to talk about it, we didn't have a wedding cake. We had an almond croissant tower. We love almond croissants. We had them like early dating. We only ate them together, blah, blah, blah. we had so many mini almond croissants left over. The caterers popped in our room where James and I were staying, and it was like 50 almond croissants. And I messaged my brother. I said, there's 50 almond croissants in my room, and we're at this venue for another 2 days. What am I going to do? And he said, Lauren, it's simple. You just have to eat an almond croissant every 2 hours to get through them.
How'd you go?
I'm always up for a challenge. It was just my poor body. I don't think I could ever look at an almond croissant again, but they are the perfect combination of the sweet and if you put like with a bit of like buttery. A salty to buttery, everything. Absolutely everything. But I don't think I could look at any of this food again after the week I've had for months.
Well, it's funny you mentioned because our wedding cake was, I think it was 3 tiers, and all down one side was salted caramel popcorn.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
Like cascading down was heaps of it.
My goodness. But people are amongst the snacks. Adrian, do you want to give us some other people's snacks really quick?
I shall do. Adam Mantley Analog said Cheetos with chopsticks. We like to live dangerously. That's actually a good idea for people who don't like the powdery stuff on their fingers or they're worried about their games. I'm down with that. Like,
yep.
Christina Volpan said, saltines? What are saltines?
It's a cracker, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like plain crackers.
Yeah.
Which, love that for you.
Yeah, it's their own.
Yeah. And on Discord, Chris Torkium said, I'm very much like Mitch in that if there's any odd flavor of chips or drink, I have to try it. And typically I'll buy them to have at game nights. Failing that, though, my usual go-to is a chalk-coated honeycomb.
Yum.
It's all good and well saying, like, I'll try any of the weird flavors, but I've seen that there's, like, Oreo-flavored cola.
Oh, I haven't tried the Oreo-flavored cola, but I've tried
the other way around.
I've tried the Coke-flavored Oreos. They are disgusting.
Blah.
Our local was
told you that.
Our local was given away for like 70 cents a thing. Go, well, for 70 cents, can't go wrong. No, you can still go wrong for 70 cents, as it turns out.
Definitely.
For 70 cents, just twist and use the biscuits only.
Well, no, because the biscuits, it wasn't just the cream. The biscuit had a infused flavor as well. It was bizarre. It was like a really, really weird, really weird flavor.
And then Ray said, when we do our gaming weekends away, we have not only a cheese board, but a quality
charcuterie.
Yeah. Is that a dog? Alongside. I'll bake a fresh sourdough, cookies and brownies to round it all out. Man, I tell you what, fresh baked cookies are mine and Jamie Stegmeier's number one. Like, that is my favorite. And I don't do chocolate chips. I get a whole block of chocolate, I chop that up, and it's chunky as. And that's actually probably my favorite board game snack because I only make them at Christmas. So it's like a special thing. So.
Oh, wow.
Nice. I think not only have we got some great responses, but we've got some great game nights that I want to be invited to now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And for a new question of the pod, we were thinking about some of those experiences that we mentioned earlier about just really thinking that you knew the rules to the games and getting to the table, being so confident and then just completely blanking or really overestimating how well you knew the game. So our new question of the pod was, when was the last time you forgot the rules to one of your favorite games?
Yeah.
I've done that plenty. Sure. At the last game day, our Melbourne game day, I taught, and it is probably one of my favorite games. I taught Nah a couple of times. I didn't play it. I sat down and I taught Nah to a group of 4 people, and then a couple hours later, I taught it again. And then later in the evening, we had some free time, so I sat down with Joe. Who was it? It was Joe, Lee Parrott, and may have been Nelly, and I taught them Nah, and I played this time. And we got about halfway through, and I realized I'd forgotten a rule. I told these guys the rule, but I didn't tell the 2 groups that I actually taught during the day. And I know for a fact that at least 3 of them have gone and bought Nah. So when they open their copy of Nah and read the rules, surprise, you can actually use your recruits to send them out on a journey and bring back one of those cards to your ship. So there's a little nugget that you'll discover when you read the rules of Nard, something that I completely forgot to teach you. But
even better, they never read the rules. They go, we know how to play this game already, and then they play it for the next 10 years, exactly like that.
The butterfly effect I've just caused, the Canara effect.
Outstanding. But it doesn't matter what we think. What matters is what you think. So please get on the socials and let us know when was the last time you forgot the rules to one of your favorite games. If you want to support the podcast, you can always go to patreon.com/boardgamebarbecue. You can get access to exclusive podcasts where we chat about RPGs, musicals, all sorts of shenanigans, board game and non-board gaming related. You also get extra exclusive Discord access. So if you want to support the show, then that would be awesome. But if you can't, or you just want to support the show in other ways, then just tell your mates, jump on the Discord, get on our socials. We have so many wonderful active communities on Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. So just get amongst it and join. We'd love to have you there. Or go on Apple Podcasts, leave a star rating, Spotify's new star rating system. It all makes a massive, massive difference, and all the links are in the show notes. Alrighty, let's fire up, guys. Let's fire up Legends, the new segment where we talk about what is getting us amped, ending the show on an absolute high. Dan, what has got you fired up?
I had an email in my inbox on Friday. I've got a new Kickstarter fulfillment that is coming this week. I backed from KTBG, Kids Table Board Games. I backed Maki Master, which I think was originally named Wasabi, and they renamed it. I backed Maki Master. It arrives this week. But I also, in the Pledge Manager, I grabbed Cafe Baras and Dice Master? No. Dice Veggies. Dice Veggies. So I've got 3 brand new games. They're perfectly pitched at my family. They're all arriving this week. I cannot wait.
I really want to try Dice Veggies.
I just love the artwork. Jealous. I love all the way these games all look on the table, and I'm really pumped.
That's so awesome. 80, what are you pumped up about, mate?
Mate, I am kind of with Mitch on the PAX pumped up train. Like, I'm just so excited to see you guys and hang out, but also there's a bunch of games that I'd really like to try at the Collaboratory this year. We have in the past found some banger games out there and had a great time playing them. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to some of those this year. I couldn't name them all because there are quite a few, but we are going to sort of try our best to get around the tables and do some interviews and talk to some of the community and get our hands on some of these games and give them a good playing. So looking forward to that. It's going to be sick.
That's so awesome. You guys are going to have an absolute blast at PAX. I am super amped because 4 days ago, we got the notification that My Favorite Things /String Railways is on the ships. It's headed to Australia.
Nice.
And I'm super pumped for that project because it was a grail game of mine for so long, and I was so excited that it was getting a reprint.
Is My Favorite Things the one where you make your own tricks? Is that one?
Yeah.
I've played that. It's great.
It's so good. Yeah. I had like a bootleg homebrew version of it for the longest time. And so I'm very excited to have an official version.
I never will forget Sarah. I'm sure Sarah put that she thought Batman Forever was the best Batman film when we played that because it was Batman movies for her thing. I'm sure it was her. And she put Batman Forever. And I was like, what do you mean? That's not the best Batman movie. There's no way.
A choice. But yeah, no, thanks so much for chatting, guys. I've had an absolute blast. And
thank you.
Thank you to our wonderful community. Thanks, Sadie. Thanks, Dan. It's been awesome.
Thanks,
but
Lauren.
Yeah, just get out there and play some games, and we'll chat to you all soon. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. I cannot believe that I didn't say this before, but I didn't even take my trousers to Lauren's wedding.
No.
Turned up with no trousers. Had to buy trousers in Sydney on the way there. And not only that, I got there and it was freezing cold in the middle of the night because I just forgot
that
it was going to be cold.
Didn't you get half your outfit from Aldi?
I had to buy clothes at Aldi just to go out for dinner the day before because I had no clothes. I just had shorts and t-shirt. I tried to walk outside to the pub or wherever, and I was like, I can't do it. It's too cold.
Yeah, Blue Mountains, dude.
I didn't even think about it. It just doesn't cross my mind. And I was so happy. I got a whole outfit for $40. Shoes, socks, jeans, and a jacket.
Mate, you beauty. There was too much of the use of the word pegging at the wedding.